So, all that stands between you and coffee. I want to talk a little about scientists who are going to come years behind you. And the reason why we do data management is not for the people really in the room. It's really for people who are going to come along after you who will lose some of the context and the metadata from the information that you're collecting now. First of all, since they're half the room, got to shout out to the people. The data management subcommittee has been very, very busy this week, and it's been the most productive SOOS data management meeting I've been to. We're actually populating the SOOS portal with lots and lots and lots of metadata. So just really wanted to thank them in a public forum for all their hard work this week. So what are we preserving? I mean, we're using a little bit, we're looking at this and measuring some of it, not all of it, obviously, can't get snuffed it, and using some of these and grabbing data. And so what we want to do is look at that ocean state and those discrete states, or maybe the continuous state, and preserve that for people who are going to come who don't have the benefit of being born early enough to actually look at the ocean state or measure it. And all of us, I think, know you can look into the past and wish some of your predecessors had been a little bit more diligent about saving data and making those things available if metadata standards had been there. And these are the EOVs. I think, Seb, you already talked about these before. So we renamed some of them in a very active session yesterday. At AGU last year, I conducted a phone survey, so taking advantage of mobile devices. And really, it's about the next generation. So we focused on early career geoscientists, not just oceanographers, and asked them what they wanted. And number one was educational resources, but number two, a very close second, was data discovery. I can't find things that I know that are out there. I know these measurements have been made. I have no idea where to get them, or if I know where to get them, which data source do I use? Because there are so many. New problem we didn't have before the internet. Providing data through what the SOOS data portal that looks like this now, but we were just in a session, all of us, completely reworking this so that the next time you go to the SOOS data portal, it will look completely different. We call it Operation Phoenix. We're burning it to the ground and then bringing it back up from the ashes as we do in the data management world all the time. So many of you know me from my previous role. You've avoided me at all the oceanographic social functions. I get invited to go to all these nice places around the world, and then it's social hour, and there's like, have you seen a circle of influence and invert that idea? There's a circle around me that moves of people finding other things to do because that was me. But you learn stuff. You know, if you're lonely at parties, you start eavesdropping and listening to Steve and Esme talk about what they really need in terms of data, but they're not talking directly to me, so I can actually get the truth because what they see in my face is a little bit different. And so you start thinking about the future and thinking about all the problems that we have and leaving that stuff in the past and really enabling science so that scientists aren't necessarily doing data management, the janitorial, the hard part of picking up and looking at these things and going, is this what I want? Do I need to quality control it? Is it in the right format? Can I use it and can I combine it with other data on spatial and temporal scales? So if you think about it, if you're thinking really long term, not the 23rd century, but you know, within the 21st century, 50 years down the line, and somebody's planning something, they're planning an expedition, they're looking at the data that's collected now, where are they getting it from? How are they using it? How are they using these data? If you can answer these questions and bring those answers to us, it's going to really help guide how we do the data management now. We can't do it ourselves, but working with the SSC, the DMSC, can come up with these answers. So it's a different talk than you thought. Really, you know, if we look at technology, it has enabled a great many things. And Ken Casey of what it used to be NODC is now NCEI. Reminds me that these economies of scale, the fact that you can go with your pocket change and buy more disk space and compute speed than you ever had in your life. My daughter routinely drops my 1.6 gigaflop computer on the floor when she's watching The Princess and the Frog. And I can't imagine a time when I thought a 7-year-old could pick up a 1.6 gigaflop computer. So that gets us down the road a little bit. Right? We can process things faster, we can store more. But has science fundamentally changed just due to these increases in the data management side? Not really. You still can't find data. Still producing data and don't know where to put it. You still have some of the same problems. So technology got us here, but it won't get us to that bright, shiny hill on, city on the hill. What are the things that are actually driving it? Well, one of the things is it's still the more that data grow, the larger the percentage of dark data, meaning data that aren't even in a data system somewhere, or gray data, data that exists on your machine, but they're not connected to the internet. There's no way to actually access them. And by, in a few years, 2020 is not that far away. I know it has a 0 behind it, so it sounds like it's the future, but it's 5 years. 35 exabytes. 35 exabytes of data on an anonymous FTP site. Imagine. The other thing is that the federal agencies are now starting to really put some teeth to the requirements that the data have to go somewhere. But they're not providing the money, and they're not providing the guidance. But they are providing the push. And a lot of things, at least in the US with the National Science Foundation, are following what's happening with PubMed and a lot of things with the NIH. Although, on their own website, when a tenured scientist comes up and says, I'm super busy, I really don't have time to do this, what should I do? They say, archives will help you. They will help you. The enclaves may provide technical assistance. Now, I don't know anybody in this room that's probably received help from their technical enclave. All right? So, but that's the offer, the answer that they give, so it's obvious that they're a little bit out of touch. So publishing papers. AGU has now gone from this draft statement to an actual statement. Can't find the data, not assigned with a DOI? Sorry, can't publish in our publications. That's kind of a big, hard stop from where it was before. So you think about these things with data management. We have to make the mechanisms available so that science can continue. Other things, regime change. Really with the instruments that are in the water, the way that we measure things. I mean, I just saw a slide from, I think it was Karen and Anna was talking about more of these and less of this, the ship, less ships, and more of these autonomous vehicles. What does that mean for data volume? What does that mean for the fact that you really can keep more and more terabytes of data on your private machines, and yet that's part of the ocean state that we want to get out into the public. And the fact that at least in the US and maybe internationally, there'll be just less ships overall. They're expensive, the infrastructure is tough, and so what do we do? Well, I think many in the room who are doing science now have already turned to other platforms that are much more cost-effective and available. And we're running out of time. Sort of the golden age of oceanography with Walter Munk and Harold Sverdrup and other people, they're gone. But Joe Reed just passed away, many others, people that can give context to their data, the designs of their instruments, why they did what they did, and now they're silent. How do we digitize that information to make it, if for the fans of science fiction, so that you actually can talk to the researchers of the past. It's more than just the numbers. And so a lot of the metadata standards now, a lot of the data management expertise is meant to capture that information, but you guys don't have time for all this. I mean, maybe there's a couple of things that might make sense, but do you want to keep track? And this is just a tiny subset of what the data management crowd has to deal with on a daily or weekly basis. So I'm going to switch up and talk about how to be a good friend. How do you be a good friend? Well, if Nathan's my buddy, I'm going to cherish his friendship. I'm going to come to Australia now and then. We'll have a beer. He might ask me for some advice for God knows why. I'll help him to become all that he can be. But if he's a bad friend, I'm going to tell Katya, nah, don't befriend Nathan. He'll leave you and he'll make you pay the bill. So, that saves people for a lot of anxiety. And I will put forth that data is your new BFF, right? So apply the same rules of friendship that you do to data, right? Cherish it, quality control it, share it by submitting it to your portal, your archive. But if it's bad data, let people know. If you've quality controlled it, ooh, this is bad, spiky data. Don't just leave it on your machine and never tell anybody. Get back to us so people don't make the same mistake. There's not that duplication of error. Okay, so treat data as your new BFF and get it to us. And sometimes you only get one chance. We exist now, as far as I know, time machine hasn't been built, time moves in one direction. Until that changes, We're only going to be able to observe things this ocean state now. We'll only be able to add the metadata now. We'll only be able to do timely submissions before we move with the tiny amount of funding we have from one thing to the next and add what we need to do. And so my grandmother used to always tell me, that good friend, cherish it. Because you can make new friends all day, but you can't make old ones. So if you have any questions, just see me out in coffee. The whole team is around. We want to do better by the data, and we need your help.